Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In today's video, I will be tier ranking all the fantasy books that I have ever read. And because this is a very sad setting, I put a plant up in here. And I don't know if you can see, I think you can barely see. I put a book in the background so we can sort of make this a bookish video. That's all we have. That's all we gotta work with, and we're gonna make it work somehow. So I am, of course, very late to this tier ranking party, but I just felt like I want to do this video. I've been sort of trying not to do it. I just didn't feel like I'd enjoy it, but we all change and we all grow into things we hadn't thought before. So anyway, this was initially going to be a tier ranking video of all the series that I have read, but as I was scrolling through Goodreads, I realized that I have not completed that many series, and I always end up reading the first book and just not continuing on with the rest, which is a problem I've come to realize. So this is a fantasy series video where I will be including those first books and also standalones. And when I'm talking about a series, when I'm talking about like book one of a series, because that's all I've included, I'm talking about the series in general. That's basically it. That's all for the introduction. Let's just start. I'm sort of excited for this video in the way that there are some books here that I've hardly or rarely not ever talked about, and I'm excited to give them a time in their spotlight, well-deserved or not very well-deserved. I mean, I don't really have many books that I hate. So I was just about to start this video when I realized I have no idea how to do a screen recording, and I have managed that problem, so we can actually start right now. So as you can see on this little thing, my tiers are kind of similar to what everyone else uses, which is like God tier, demigod tier, great tier, and then I just use meh tier, okay tier, bad tier, tier, which I actually don't think will have that many books in it, because I don't really hate books unless I really actually hate them. So nothing really complicated here. I switched the colors because I thought it looked better, and also someone commented on a video I just saw that it looks better if it's switched, so I switched it. Let's just get started. So the first book, or rather series, is The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare, and we're starting off hard here. I feel like my friend who is in love with this series is just gonna judge me so hard. I don't remember much of this trilogy, and I feel a bit embarrassed to say that. I remember being really engaged with it, and I just read it at lightning speed, which for the slow reader that I am, it was so freaking fast. I couldn't get enough of them. I was in vacation. I don't remember anything of that vacation other than reading these books. And that being said, I'm still gonna put it in great tier. It was really good. I can't tell you what it's about. I don't remember what it's about. It was just a really good story with really good characters. And the ending deserves all of the hype. It was brilliant. It was so spectacular and so unexpected. And I just, I completely understand why people love this trilogy so much. It's never been my world, and I've never really read any other Cassandra Clare books. But I am really happy that I read this trilogy because I think it's great. It's great. Let's just leave it at that. I'm sorry. Next up, we have the Chronicles of Narnia. Yet another one that makes me slightly embarrassed. I'm not liking this so far. So the thing with the Chronicles of Narnia is I read book one and I read book two, and I kind of started book three, from what I recall. And I think I really enjoyed book one to the point where I reread it, which was impressive because I never reread books when I was a kid, and even now I struggle to do that. I don't know where to put it. Oh my god. Oh no. I'm gonna put it into demigod tier, which, it feels so bad to put it here because I think plot-wise the Infernal Devices are better and more good, but it's just a nostalgia. Next we have a book. Oh my god, I don't think I've ever talked about this book, but it is immediately going to tier. I hate that book, book series. I read all the three books and I just hate them so much. I never talk about it because talking about it hurts me. I just really don't like them. And I don't like spreading so much hate about a book because I've heard people like it in general, but I just hated it so much. It's basically like an Alice in Wonderland retelling, except there are no elements of Alice in Wonderland in that thing, except like there's a cloud in the shape of a rabbit. That's all you're getting. And it's a girl who can see zombies, and there's like a whole thing where she has to save some people, and she gets into this gang, and I mean, no, I just can't. It's no. And I honestly don't think any other book from this list will go there, so special place for the book that I might hate most of all the books that I have ever read. Next up is Harry Potter, and now I don't really talk about Harry Potter anymore, which is because I don't support J.K. Rowling anymore, but as I mentioned, I can't hide the fact that Harry Potter has changed my life, and it is one of the best books that I've ever read, and I just really, really love it. And I try not to talk about it because I just don't feel really good spreading the love for it anymore. But quietly and deep down, I still really love it. And I already own the books, so I can reread them without giving J.K. Rowling money. So I don't feel so bad about it. And I'm sorry, but it has to go into God tier. It's just such an amazing world to me. It's a source of great comfort and great joy for me to read the books or watch the movies. It's God tier. I love this world, and I love the characters and everything about these stories. So yeah. Next up, we have Magnus Chase, the trilogy by Riordan. And in here, I immediately know this is gonna go to demigod tier. Not god tier, though I think it could potentially be there, like it's very close, because I really loved this trilogy. I thought it was so well like structured and so thought through. In a sense, it's like any other Riordan book, which is not to say it is like bad, but it's just the way it's structured and the characters and the whole saving the world thing. It's like any other Riordan book, just that it's based on Nordic mythology, but I think it's just so unique, and the characters are so amazing and like incredible that it definitely is in the demigod tier and should be in the god tier, but I think the third book sort of messed up that, but still amazing. Next, we have Tesla's Attic by Neil Schusterman and Eric Ulfman. And now, have I ever talked about this book? This is, I read this book 2015, I think. And I thought it was so good. And I was so obsessed with it. And I texted like the publishing house, like, when are you gonna translate book 2 and 3? Because I wasn't really up to like the challenge of reading books in English at that point. And they never replied back, and no other books in that series were published. And I kind of just don't want to finish it because it's a nostalgic read by now, but I also kind of want to know what happens next because I sort of remember the events. And this is going into the great tier, and I really wish I read the other 2 books. Maybe I will read them at some point, but I don't like switching languages like in a series, so we're gonna have to see about that. Next is Snow Like Ashes, and I don't know where to put it. I'm putting it into the bad tier, and now it's a book by Sarah Rosh, and I remember like right when I started watching videos on BookTube, this was one of the books that kept repeating a lot in Helene Bookland's videos, which I religiously watched. And I kind of still do, so you know, just saying. And I decided to pick it up, and it was just so dull, and I was not connected to any of the characters. I liked the idea of like 4 different kingdoms based in different seasons, but it somehow just didn't stick, and it didn't make any sense to me. So it's in the bad tier, which is sad because I loved the concept and I had a fun time reading it, but in retrospect, it was dull. Next is Dream a Little Dream by Kristen Gear, and I don't know where to put this either. Oh, I'm gonna put this in the bad tier. I didn't expect to be so harsh with books. It was originally written in German, and the cover is really, really stunning, and like that is the reason why I really picked it up. It was so fake and so superficial in my opinion. It flowed nicely and it read quickly, but I thought like there was no layer to it, no depth. It was just like a story of this teenage girl in high school, and she's got some like boy issues and stuff like that as well. And aside of that, she can do some magic, and that's basically it. I just did not really end up enjoying it very much and did not continue on with the series. Next is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender, and this was such a popular book and everyone loved it, but I'm gonna put it into the okay tier. I never really cared much for it. I cared for it only because my mom bought me this book, and at the time it was a very unique story. I think it still is a very unique story, and for that it deserves to be in the okay tier. I just realized that meh tier and okay tier should switch places, so I'm gonna attempt okay. I just did that. So back to The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender by Leslie Walton. It was a weird book. It was a creepy kind of book, and I remember being uncomfortable reading it. So it is going into the okay tier. Next up is Heartless by Marissa Meyer. This is actually the only Marissa Meyer book that I've read up to date, which is gonna change because I just ordered Cinder by Marissa Meyer. But it was amazing. It was a really good book, and I'm putting it into the great tier. It could honestly be a demigod tier book, but I'm putting it in the great tier because it's not up there. But it was such a lovely read. It's basically the backstory of the Queen of Hearts, like how she came to be this cruel, evil queen, and her backstory, and how she was in Wonderland trying to become a baker, open up her bakery, but fate went it differently for her, or who was it, her parents, I think. It's a pretty sad story, and the reason it's not up in the demigod tier is the ending was a bit like weird and just I just didn't like it very much. Not because it was sad, but it just felt weird in comparison to the rest of the story. Didn't really fit in, so I think that was a bit weird. But other than that, it's a really, really amazing book, and it always, like, when I think about it, I just always want to go and bake something. Next up is Pneumonia by Noelle Stevenson, and this is a graphic novel. And it's definitely going into the great tier. I think it was a fantastic graphic novel that was funny, heartbreaking, heartwarming. It was everything you could want. And the illustrations are absolutely fantastic. So if there's nothing more I can really add here. Next up, I have Percy Jackson's Greek Gods and Greek Heroes. I'm just going to include these two because I honestly don't know which story was where. And this is going into the great tier. I mean, this sort of can like include all these additional books you get in the Requiem worlds, although in that case they could go into the okay tier, so they're like somewhere in between. I need more tiers for this, but it's just very fun stories that are a great addition to like Percy Jackson or Magnus Chase or the Kane Chronicles, and they are just great way to make you laugh and remind you of how much you should reread these books. So they're pretty great. Next up is, I mean, obviously this is going to, do you really need me to explain this? I'm not gonna even. Next is Fire and Flood by Victoria Scott, and this is also going into God tier. Oh no, I can't. Okay. And that is mostly because I just fell in love with these books. I couldn't get enough of them. I'm still so incredibly sad that book 3 is not coming out yet. But I'm not losing hope, and I hope that maybe we'll convince the publisher to accept book 3 because I need book 3. I just really love these books, and I feel like they're more of a dystopian maybe, but I also feel like they're kind of a fantasy. And because I really wanted to talk about them, they're fantasy, so I put them here. Next up is My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hans, Jodie Meadows, and Brody Ashton. And this is going into the great tier because I thought this was great. I had a great time reading it. I laughed, I smiled. It was really, really funny. I never continued on with this like Lady Jane series. I tried reading book 2, but it didn't have the same vibe, but I just decided to leave it at that. Yeah, I still think it's great. Next up is Six of Crows, which is obviously going into God tier. I feel like I don't talk about this book enough, but it is one of my favorite books of all time, and I absolutely adore Leigh Bardugo's world, writing style, anything she writes. I'm so sad that I left the other 2 books in Shadow and Bone back in the UK because I don't want to buy like another copy, but I really want to read them before the show comes out, but like I don't know what to do. But Six of Crows is like, the duology is incredible. I get goosebumps just thinking about it. It is so freaking phenomenal. It's amazing. Next up is Ella Enchanted, and I'm putting it into the meh tier because I have absolutely no opinion on it. I don't care about this book or the movie either. We were forced to read it at school, and because I'm doing an every fantasy book tier ranking, I just had to include it in here. But I don't really remember what it's about. I mean, I remember it sort of, and I remember not enjoying it very much, but it wasn't bad. It was just like meh. Next up is The Rebel. It's Sons by Alan Hamilton, and this is going into okay tier, but it could be meh tier, but it's going into the okay tier because hey guys, I'm just editing the video and I realized I didn't manage to explain why Rebel of Sands is going into this tier, but basically I just thought it was a pretty generic story, nothing very unique or didn't really make much sense as I was reading it, but I did like the world building and the language a lot, so that's why it's not considered bad, but it was pretty average. Okay, slight change in angle because my battery was dying. Also, these bracelets keep on annoying me. So, next up is Alice Through the Looking Glass and Alice in Wonderland. I have two books in here because I messed up, but that's okay. And this is going into... I actually don't know where this is going. I really like these books in the sense that they're sort of really nostalgic, though I don't have any like childhood memories of them. I guess it's just I really don't know how to explain it. Maybe I just watched the movie when I was a kid and I read the books and somehow it just became nostalgic, though I don't remember it really. But at the same time, when I come back to them now, it's just they're not my favorites, but I appreciate them. So they're going into okay tier. Don't kill me. I don't understand why I'm putting them here because they really could be God tier. They could either be God tier or okay tier. And I'm just putting them in the okay one because yes. Next up is Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson. This is the only Brandon Sanderson book I've read so far. Planning to change that, and I'm going to read the Mistborn series, but you know, make time to do that. So this is going to the meh tier for sure. It's like, I don't want to say disappointed, but disappointed by this book. It was like good, but it was targeted at a different age group, and I mean that's fine. I just still didn't really enjoy it because it was just so bland. And it felt like it was trying to be something it's not, like some fun original story, while in reality to me it just seemed like a normal middle grade book that is trying to stand out too much, and that's why it's in the meh tier. Next up is Every Heart Adored by Sinan McGuire, and this is definitely going into the okay tier. I listened to this on audiobook when I was waiting for like our car to be fixed, and I had 5 hours or something, so that was really the perfect book to read at the time. I mean, listen to at the time, and I did enjoy it. I found it pretty original and a pretty quick, nice read to have, but it's nothing really special. It's not like I could read it and reread it all the time. It was just it was just okay. Next up is Titans by Victoria Scott, and this is going into the demigod tier because Victoria Scott, I just love her writing. I've read her short story, I've read her other books, not all of them, but I'm planning to, but I just love her writing style so much, and it's whatever she writes, I always enjoy it. So it's going into the demigod tier because her writing style just made it so incredible, and the story I wasn't so invested in. It's not exactly my thing, like the mechanical courses, races, and whatever, but you know, Victoria Scott, so it's definitely going to be in the demigod tier. Next up is Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, and this is going to the meh tier, and I feel kind of bad putting it there because I feel like it deserves more. Like I objectively see how this book is really, really good and how the characters are really very well developed and the story is very interesting. and the whole concept is super interesting, and so is the inclusion of photographs in the book. But I just wasn't really engaged like in the story. I thought the monsters were really like, they tried to add something to the book. They tried to add this paranormal vibe, and it was just weird. It was just out of place in my opinion, and it could have been done differently, but they were there, so that kind of made it a bit meh for me. Am I making any sense right now? I don't know. Next up is The Girl of Ink and Stars by Carolyn Margaret Hargrave, and I actually remember the surname, which I'm so proud of myself for. And this is going into the okay tier. I did enjoy this book. I read it a while ago and I thought it was pretty. I really liked how, I don't remember what it was exactly, but the life of a person was sort of turned into a map on their skin or something like that. But I just thought that was a really cool idea, and it was pretty well developed. It's a middle grade and it wasn't that amazing, but it definitely deserves to be in the okay tier. Next up is Percy Jackson. That is definitely going to the God tier. I really do not show my love for Percy Jackson in these videos. I really love Percy Jackson so freaking much. It is such an amazing series, and it is, I have no words to describe how amazing it is and how much it means to me. It just has to be in the God tier, like full stop. I don't feel the need to explain myself here. Next up is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman, and this is going into the, which one do I pick? Great, okay, great. I'm going with the great tier because the audiobook adds a whole different level to it. Neil Gaiman's voice is so special. You just have to listen to one of his audiobooks or even a small excerpt and you're just gonna instantly feel at peace with the world. It is so like mesmerizing. And while I'm a fan, it's different mythologies and different retellings, and I just enjoyed the way he talked about Norse mythology. I did learn a thing or two about it. Or a lot, because let's not pretend I'm not really educated, and whatever I learn, I forget. So. Next up is The Last Namzar by Kristen and it's going into the okay tier. And now the cover of this book is stunning. Maybe that's why it's so high up. Like it's just stunning. But the plot of the story, it was good, and I like the fact that there were dragons, and I thought it flowed pretty well. But the relationship between two characters in the story, like the romantic relationship, felt a bit too predictable and too like angsty in a way, like too YA-ish. Basing on my experience, it's going in the okay tier. Next up, we're going with Rapunzel, some Lost Lagoon book. I'm putting this here because I'm doing every fantasy book thing, so let's just put it into meh tier. Oh, Nevermore is going into God tier. I did not hesitate to do that at all. It is such a heartwarming book, and it's such an amazingly crafted world, and Jessica Townsend has a power and a way with words, and it is incredible. I am so excited because the third book in this trilogy is coming out in Poland soon, and I am so excited for it. It's just, wow, I just love these stories so much. Next up is The Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, which is going into, I don't know. It's going into the demigod tier, though I'm sort of debating about putting into the great tier, because the thing is, I remember when I was reading it, I was loving it so much. I was obsessed with it. And now thinking back, I don't know if that wasn't exaggerated, like if I would react the same way, but basing on my experience then at the time of reading, I'm still putting it in demigod tier, because I guess the younger me had a point. I mean, like the few months younger me had a point in being so excited and so charmed by this book. Shadow and Bone, I kind of want to put it in the God tier. I'm putting it in the God tier. I don't even care. I read just one book of this trilogy and I think about it every single day, and I haven't continued on with the series because the books are not with me, and I'm struggling in here, but I think about it like every single day, and I think that means something. Next up is Everlast by Sarah Holland, and we're going with the okay tier for this one. As I've mentioned a few times, I'm sorry, little guy. As I mentioned a few times when talking about this book, the world building is what essentially pushed me to continue on with like book 2. But in general, like the character development and the plot, I wouldn't say is exceptional. I think the world concept, world building and language was really good. But I think the characters lacked a lot in like realisticness. Let's just leave that there. Marissa, oh no, I just read the first book in this Pandora Quartet. I feel bad about this, but I'm gonna put it into meh here. I did not love this book. I thought it was trying too hard to be funny, to be like Rick Riordan's books, to be like predictably unpredictable, and no, I just didn't enjoy it very much. Seriously by Madeline Miller is going into God tier. I love this story. I love the way it's written. I love what it says and what it tells the reader and what it conveys. It is so beautiful and just so mesmerizing. You just forget about the rest of the world reading this book, and I love it so much. Vicious by V. Schwab. This is going... Oh no. I don't want to buy this book anymore. Can we just skip this and forget I ever read that? Because, well, the truth is, I think I'm not being fair with this book because, you know, I love V. Schwab so much. I am not okay with putting her books anywhere by the God tier. But I wasn't really a fan of this. But maybe it's because it wasn't a great time in my life, and I'm definitely going to give it another try. And I do have book 2 that I am planning to read despite initially not wanting to. I'm gonna put this into okay too. Oh my god, I feel so bad doing this. Can we just skip to the next book? I don't want to talk about this. We have a complicated relationship, but I'm planning to fix it. I'm going to put a lot of effort into fixing it. Next up is, what the book we have here, A Winter's Promise by Kristen. Oh, this is actually going into demigod tier. I'm surprised as well, but this book was just so good and so incredibly well written, and it has a very, very slow pace. But it just made sense, and it was just so good that it has to go in the demigod tier. Like, I did not expect that, but it's definitely out there. Mooncakes. It's a graphic novel, and it's going into the okay tier. I don't really have much to say about it. It felt pretty weird at some points, like the story wasn't entirely complete. But the illustrations were nice, and also the story was cute itself, so it's up there. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V. Schwab. Do you want me to say more? I'm just gonna, move on. The Savage Song by V. Schwab. Ooh, this is gonna go into the great tier. I did like it. I did like it a lot. I thought it was a very interesting world, and I did enjoy the character development. Not my favorite from V. Schwab, and I don't feel bad about putting it there because many people have been saying it's not like their favorite book from hers. So I feel okay about that. So it's going in the great tier. Cemetery Boys. That is definitely going to the great tier. It's such an adorable story and such a great like October-y read. I loved it so much. It was so cute. It was just so adorable. Peter Pan. I like the idea. I appreciate the concept, and I appreciate that it was a part of my childhood, but I don't really care that much for the story. The Rat Pyramid is going into demigod tier. I love this book so much. It is such an underappreciated Rick Riordan book. Like, nobody ever talks about it, and everybody forgets it. It's part of his books, but it's so good. Can you hear my laptop overheating? I'm sorry for that. It's working hard, but we're almost at the end. Museum of Thieves. I don't know if anyone here knows this book. It's like a middle grade book, and I read it when I was much younger, and I really liked it. I'm putting it into great tier because I think it was a really cool book. I never finished the series because by the time I finished book 2, it was hard to get book 3, and I wasn't really into this internet thing to actually find it online, so I never really finished the series, but I really liked it. I thought it was a very, very good, very solid middle grade series. So definitely into the grade tier. And this is going to the God tier because I'm really surprised by how many books I have in God tier. I feel like I should make a subset in the God tier of like books that I absolutely love. You know, now that I think about it, Shadow and Bone has to go into the demigod tier. It's not up there with Six of Crows. I can't compare these two books. What was I talking about? The Last Hero. I love this series. I have nothing more to add. I love this series. And the Unfortunate Events, the series of Unfortunate Events. Nah, never really cared for this much. I tried to hop on the train of like loving the whole series, and I just didn't read it when I was younger, and I tried reading it, but you know, it's just not the same. I didn't really care much for it. So there you go. I'm looking at the God tier and I'm thinking, what can I move to different tiers? Because surprisingly, there are so many books in here. I feel like I could potentially move Morgan Crow into demigod tier. Why am I so anxious about having many books in the God tier? I mean, it's a good thing, but it's just so weird because I didn't realize I had so many books in the God tier, but I'm also really happy that there's only one book in the tier, and that Alice in Zombieland. Is that even the title? I'm really happy that this book has a separate tier for itself to highlight how much I hate it. It's like there's a whole other level of hate that I have for this book, and it's in a separate tier. I'm very proud of that. But anyway, that is it. I'm gonna stop recording now and give my laptop a break because it is overheating in here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was definitely a lot of fun to film. One thing I would love to know is whether you have a book that you could create a whole like other level of hate for. Please let me know about that. Okay guys, other than that, I hope you're doing well and I hope to see you very, very soon. Bye!